Those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Jerry Rees. For 25 plus years, I've been involved in the faith-based justice, peace, and environmental education actions and advocacy within and beyond the walls of Village Church. I'm a member of Village Church's Environmental Action Committee, or EAC, as stated. In 2004, I helped co-found Sustainable Sanctuary Coalition and Earth Keepers of Heartland Presbytery. In 2008, I began 2 terms as the Midwest Regional Rep for Presbyterians for Earth Care, and I was invited to join the steering committee of Kansas Interfaith Power and Light, and served until it evolved into becoming currently Kansas Interfaith Action. In October 2008, I attended the Climate Project's 3-day climate change training for faith communities with Al Gore. And some of my slides tonight are from Al Gore. Over the years, I've learned that justice, peace, and the environment are interrelated, overlapping realms of human concern. I've become aware of the moral imperative of the environmental crisis in its various manifestations and its multiple impacts on the human condition. I learned that another way to care about people is to care about the environment, preserving and protecting the natural world that surrounds and sustains us, our biotic support system, of which we are a part and to which we are intricately interconnected. As people of faith, we are called to care about people who are hungry and impoverished, as well as people who are the victims of pollution, resource depletion, and environmental degradation. We are called to care about people who share the planet with us today, as well as future generations. We are called to engage in peacemaking and earthkeeping as an integral part of our congregational life, ministry, and mission. Whenever we humans abuse the environment, whenever we engage in non-sustainable consumption of our Earth's finite resources, we transgress against God, against His creation, against all the species thereof, including our own. Ultimately, we are committing acts of violence against other human beings and other species, now and in the future. It's been stated that we cannot have peace on the earth unless we also have peace with the earth. We were made stewards and caretakers of God's good green earth, to serve and conserve, to preserve and protect, to tend and till, to be responsible and respectful, to live in awe and wonder of creation. In our arrogance, many, if not most humans, have conveniently misinterpreted Scripture. In English versions of the Bible, the word dominion appears. I've been told the original word in Hebrew has been badly translated to suggest domination. To rule and have dominion over the earth has often been misinterpreted as a right to subdue, to alter, to exploit, to extract. Many have read this to mean that human beings are the crown of creation. They possess the anthropocentric view that the non-human parts of nature are valuable only if they benefit humans. All creatures were made for humans, and all things were ordained for the use of humans, they think. Instead of understanding and appreciating the intrinsic worth of nature, we only see its utilitarian value. Look at a tree, and what do you see? Lumber to build a new house? Or a living organism that generates oxygen, filters the air, sequesters carbon, slows runoff, and provides shade and habitat for other species. Dr. Marcus Board once said, "It's not enough to love God, we must love what God loves, which is all of His creation, human and non-human." Dr. Bob Meneely, the founding pastor of Village Church, prophetically preached in 1992, way back in 1992, that the gospel's good news of redemption applies to the earth as well as the earthling. According to Reverend Sally Bingham, founder of Interfaith Power and Light, the faith community has led every major movement in the U.S., including the abolition of slavery, a woman's right to vote, and most recently, the civil rights movement. We are involved now working for the health of creation, and I think we will succeed in creating a sustainable future. No institution is more suited to preach clean air, water, and land than the institution that professes a love of God and God's creation. In the Bible, John 3:16 reads, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life." In the original Greek scripture, the word for world is cosmos, not anthropos. Anthropos is the root word for anthropology, referring to human beings. So an accurate reading of this passage is that God loved the entire created order, not just humankind. With this background and perspective, it's time to talk about rapid climate change caused by rapid global warming. Climate change is not a future prediction, it is real. It is here and now and getting worse. I'm not here to preach gloom and doom, but I am here to sound the alarm and to proclaim the fierce urgency of now. I'm here to suggest possible solutions which, if acted upon and scaled up, can minimize worst-case scenarios. My intention is keeping hope alive. People of faith and conscience increasingly agree the reality of climate change is the overarching moral, social, theological, economic, environmental, health, and national security issue of our age, an issue that will determine how we live, where we live, and if we live. Climate change and its accelerating and intensifying consequences are more than just another issue among other issues. I think it is the issue. Climate change is an existential crisis, a threat multiplier for many, if not most, other issues affecting the human condition. If unchecked, climate change will become biblical in its scope, magnitude, and consequences, affecting the entire arc of human history. The modern era of global warming began around 1970, after a long period of relatively constant temperatures. Since then, each decade has been warmer than the previous one. 20 of the 21 hottest years on record have occurred since the year 2002. The hottest of all have been the last 8 years. You may recall from last year the northwestern heat dome that appeared over basically Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. This heat wave was the most anomalous extreme heat ever observed on Earth since records began 2 centuries ago. The maximum temperatures during this month-long period between mid-June and mid-July, Lytton, British Columbia was 121 degrees, Seattle, Washington 108 degrees, and Portland, Oregon 116 degrees. This was a 100-year weather event made 150 times more likely by climate change, according to climate scientists. In July 2015, the Weather Channel Climate Disruption Index ranked Kansas City 5th of 25 cities to be most impacted by climate change. We're not even on the coast. Specifically, it states the city will see 20 more days of above 90 degrees than its rural counterparts, according to Climate Central, plus more drought in the coming years. The climate change, let's see. This is later. This happened. This report comes from 2018. The administration's National Climate Assessment in November 2018 stated that Kansas City and surrounding agricultural economies will be among the worst hit sectors of the nation because of rising temperatures, extreme heat, drought, wildfires, and heavy downpours. This will disrupt agriculture and lower crop yields by about 40%. by 2050. Now is code red for humanity. Several millennia of climate stability have come to an abrupt end. During the last 800,000 years, CO2 has never exceeded 300 parts per million. Many scientists recommended reducing our carbon emissions 80% by 2050 and trying to stabilize CO2 concentration at 350 parts per million. By the way, you ever hear of a rain bomb? This is an example of a rain bomb. I've seen a video of one that attacked Phoenix. If you Google rain bomb,
is that a picture, a photograph?
It's a video, an actual video of a cloud coming over and dumping on downtown.
This is just a photo of one.
Yeah, this is a photo, not a. Yeah. More heat from rapid global warming means more water evaporating into atmosphere, which means more intense and more frequent weather events of all kinds. More heat disrupts air currents and ocean currents moving between the equator to the polar regions. Because of the law of thermodynamics, the Arctic is now heating 4 times faster than the global average. Unchecked climate change is harming and desecrating God's people and God's planet. Record heat waves, record rainstorms, record rain bombs, which I just showed you, record snowstorms, record windstorms, record tornadoes, record hurricanes, record floods, record droughts, record firestorms, record mudslides, spreading desertification, famine, melting permafrost, melting glaciers, melting sea ice, rising sea levels, ocean acidification, dying coral reefs, collapsing ecosystems, mass extinctions, zoonotic diseases, pandemics, failed states, and refugees. These consequences are not future predictions. They are happening now and increasing in frequency and severity each year. If you Google billion-dollar weather disasters, this pops up, a website. This particular one focuses on 2021. The year 2021 was second to 2020 in terms of number of disasters, 20 versus 22, and third in total cost behind 2017, 2005. With a price tag of 145 billion. According to this website, the U.S. has sustained 310 weather and climate disasters since 1980, the overall damage and cost of which exceeded $1 billion. Taking into account the Consumer Price Index adjustment to 2021, the total cost of these 310 events exceeds $2.15 trillion. These events are classified as severe weather, hailstorms, firestorms, drought, heat wave, hurricane, tornado outbreak, and flooding. If you go back, you can see during the last 4 decades, in the 1980s, they had 31 such disasters. In the 90s, 55. In the 2000, 2009, 67. In the 2010, 2019, 128. Climate change is also a social justice issue. Climate change hurts first and worst the lives of the poorest and most vulnerable among us. The least among us, those who are least responsible for its causes and least able to cope with its consequences. This slide is hard to read. but it states the case for environmental racism. For example, and I picked this out ahead of time, people of color are 3 times more likely to live in areas with restricted access to nature. Or 61% of drinking water systems on Native American reservations have health violations. And there's others that you could read. As land ice in Antarctica and Greenland is melting and sliding into the ocean, and seawater is expanding as it absorbs most of the heat caused by human carbon emissions. Coastlines and island nations are being eroded and inundated. People living in poverty in the least developed areas of the world have already been disproportionately impacted as they face disruptions to their ecosystems, water supplies, and food supplies. According to Pope Francis, peace, justice, and the preservation of creation are the 3 absolutely interconnected themes which cannot be separated or treated individually. Strategies for a solution demand an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, and at the same time protecting nature. UCC pastor Dr. Jim Antal has warned, if every 3rd sermon isn't about climate change now, then within 15 years, every sermon will be about grief. I used to think he was overstating the case, but now maybe not so much, especially for those afflicted by drought, famine, firestorms, and flash flooding. I think this cartoon says a lot about some human beings. It speaks 1,000 words. This slide shows a new language has entered new word has entered the English language, climigration. I think you can visualize what that's about. According to Terry Tempest Williams, the eyes of the future are looking back at us, and they are praying for us to see beyond our own time. Okay, let's talk about the science. This sequence of slides shows how the sun warms the earth. Solar radiation in the form of light waves passes through the atmosphere. Most of this radiation is absorbed by the earth and warms it. Some of the energy is radiated back into space by the earth in the form of infrared waves. But some of the outgoing infrared radiation is trapped by the Earth's atmosphere and warms it. The blue thin line that you see, that's the greenhouse gases. And it's kind of like just carefully calibrated that we're kind of in a Goldilocks situation. But as more greenhouse gases accumulate, that heat trapping blanket becomes thicker and we get global warming. So global warming causing climate change is caused by human activity creating excess greenhouse gases. This is kind of a picture of how all that happens. It's the result of our fossil fuel intensive civilization using coal, gas, and oil. And this is the result. This includes the production of electricity, the production of cement and transportation, as well as deforestation and industrial agriculture. Even the fashion industry accounts for about 10% of total emissions. This shows the U.S. gas emissions by economic sector, transportation being, I guess, the largest. And greenhouse gases include nitrous oxide, methane, and chlorofluorocarbons, but the primary culprit is carbon dioxide. According to James Hansen, NASA's top scientist, 25% of CO2 that we put in the air today will still be there in 500 years. By drilling into the ice in Antarctica, and extracting ice cores and analyzing entrapped air bubbles, scientists have been able to measure the atmospheric temperature in CO2 for the last 800,000 years. What you see here is a graph. Below is the temperature. Above is the parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. You notice it goes back 800,000 years. You'll notice that the peaks and valleys fit together like fingers in a glove. There is a correlation between CO2 and temperature. What you're seeing in the valleys here, those are ice ages, and then it warms up. And the reason we're turning the lights out is because we have a weak bulb in here and you can't see the blue. Yeah. So I guess we can turn the lights back on. All right. After 35 more years at the current rate of increase, we're going to be up to 600 parts per million. NOAA measures CO2, which is graphed there, at the Mauna Loa Mountaintop Observatory on Hawaii's Big Island. May is usually the month with the highest CO2 levels each year. In May of this year, the threshold of 420 parts per million was crossed. In May last year, the average was 419, one less. In May of 2020, it was one less again. In June of this year, the reading was 421 parts per million, a new record. In June last year, it was 419. The last time concentrations of CO2 was this high was about 4 million years ago. In June, I guess it's called the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration announced that CO2 is now more than 50% higher than pre-industrial levels. In 30 years, at the current rate, we'll reach 600 parts per million, a number that is considered incompatible with life. According to NOAA Administrator Rick Spinrad, the science is irrefutable. Humans are altering our climate in ways that our economy and our infrastructure must adapt to. We can see impacts of climate change around us every day. The relentless increase of carbon dioxide measured at Mauna Loa is a stark reminder that we need to take urgent, serious steps to become a more climate-ready nation. He's talking about adaptation and resilience. Worldwide, we are experiencing nonlinear feedback loops and may soon encounter irreversible tipping points. This has been described as warming causing warming, compounding itself. Author and educator David Orr describes our inadequate efforts as walking north on a southbound train. In the terse words of New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman, later is over. We are racing toward a cliff in a fog and we don't know what the edge is. According to author Lester Brown, the world has set in motion environmental trends that are threatening civilization itself. We do not have much time. We are crossing environmental thresholds and violating deadlines set by nature. Nature is the timekeeper, but we cannot see the clock. According to Chick Keller, who will be teaching the class next month, weather-wise, this is not a new normal. It's only going to get worse. With this dire and stark news in mind, before we discuss solutions, it's time to hear and heed a climate change ballad by Winston Apple, entitled "Let's Make the World a Better Place and Save the Human Race." Sometimes speeches and sermons fail to convey a message, whereas music combined with lyrics and images can be more effective. So I'm going to try to switch to a link. on a computer that I'm not familiar with.
Go for it.
Let's see.
Temperatures are rising, sea levels rising too. Coastal cities and island nations about to get the Venice blues. The stakes are getting higher, the future's on the line, and the sands of time are running out. We're running out of time. Our air has been polluted, city air's not fit to breathe, and our water's been polluted, much of it not fit to drink. Predictions have been made, predictions have come true, but when the truth is inconvenient, many turn away from truth. The problems we are facing must be faced. Let's make the world a better place and save the human race. We've got to get moving. We can't afford to run in place. With or without the deniers, we've got a world to save. Those who refuse to understand are not about to change their minds. Their heads are buried in the sand, and we are running out of time. The problems we are facing must be faced. Let's make the world a better place and save the human race. We may never know the outcome of the battles we have fought, but they are fine and worthy battles, even if it's all for naught. We're talking about our own grandchildren, great, 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 great. For each passing generation, a worse and worse fate. We can't afford to let them down. We've got to change our ways. We've got to make the world a better place and save the human race. There is no way for us to know for sure. We've passed the point of no return. But with every day that passes, with us continuing to burn, all of the coal and all the oil that we can dig out of the ground, our chances of survival are going down and down. Knowing If the human race goes missing, it won't be without a trace. Our asphalt and our concrete, even our bones will remain. Mother Earth won't really notice the scars we've left upon her face. With us or without us, she'll go on spinning away through space. If we fail in our efforts to save the human race, there will be no one left to shed a tear, so it may not be a crying shame. As the last of us gives up the ghost, with no one left to dig a grave, there will be plenty of blame to go around, but no one left to blame.
Okay, I have another short video, not quite so loud, that this is called Our World is on Fire. Go ahead and turn out the light.
I'm gonna stay in the office till about 6:30 tonight. Lunch is there. Thanks, Peter. Have a good day.
When I watch that, two things come to mind. Climate change is what's happening while we're busy making other plans. Climate change is what's happening while we're busy doing more important things. Okay, one more video. This is a message from nature. Sponsored by the UN. If I can get this. Well, anyway, the message from that last slide, the message from nature was, our destruction of nature is hurting our own survival. A healthy ecosystem helps protect us from disease. Diversity of species makes it difficult for pathogens to spread rapidly. Harming the environment causes collapsing ecosystems. Collapsing ecosystems breed zoonotic epidemics and pandemics like Ebola, Zika, West Nile. I imagine Dr. Randolph could name a few more. Lyme disease, monkeypox, and COVID. We cannot go back to business as usual. We must rebuild by working with nature, not against it. We must stop climate change and biodiversity loss. Failure to act is failing humanity. That was the message. Okay, let's talk about solutions and some reasons for hope. The first thing that comes to my mind is the Milan cycles, which I've projected here. There are three of them. Ellipticity or eccentricity, which is the Earth's orbit isn't perfectly round, it's oval. So depending on where you are, it makes a change. Then there's obliquity or tilt, the angle of the Earth's rotation with respect to the plane of the orbit. It varies due to the pull of the gravity between the planets, the moon, and the sun. And then there's a wobble, a precession. That's the cone-like wobble of the Earth's rotation axis, and has a period. This has a period of about 24,000 years. That's what this is here. Tilt. The other two periods are the eccentricity is 100,000, and you need to turn that back on. Oh, here it is. Yeah. 100,000, 41,000, and about 24,000 years. So that's these. Well, let's say without the human-caused greenhouse gases emitted since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution 200 years ago, most scientists believe that the Earth would be in a prolonged period of gradual cooling due to the superimposed effect of these three cycles. Sometimes they reinforce each other, they add to each other, sometimes they cancel themselves out. Random events include sunspot activity, volcanic eruptions, and collisions between the Earth and asteroids and comets. Sunspots may cause the Earth to warm. Their absence may cool the Earth, as during the Little Ice Age in Europe between 1650 and 1720. Eruptions and collisions place fine particles high in the atmosphere, blocking sunlight, causing the climate to cool. But in the scale of geologic time, these random events are transitory and insignificant compared to the three cycles lasting thousands of years. So without God's gift of a millennium of cooling, we would be in hot water, literally. With God's gift of millennium of cooling, with humanity's belated awakening, awareness, and alarm, some still believe there is a brief window of opportunity to prevent worst-case scenarios. Scenarios, if unchecked, will involve positive, nonlinear feedback loops and irreversible runaway tipping points. According to Science magazine, humanity already possesses the fundamental scientific, technical, and industrial know-how to solve the carbon and climate problems for the next half century. Solving climate change is a moral and political issue more than a scientific one. All we need is human imagination and willpower, both of which can be thought of as renewable resources. What has been lacking is a political will to act immediately and boldly. Now let's talk about the Yale Climate Survey. I mentioned humanity's belated awakening, awareness, and alarm. According to the September 2021 Yale survey, for the first time, the alarm category is larger than the other five. This is considered the six Americas. The most engaged group are the alarmed. I imagine most of us are here or there. If you're in the lower group, you're probably not here. So the next slide tells the story. This shows the trend between 2017 and 2021. You can see in 2017, 18% of people were alarmed. Now, in September 2021, a year ago, about 33%. That's an increase of 15%. Even more encouraging last year was between March and September, this number increased 9% just between those months, like in about 6 months. Overall, Americans are becoming more worried about global warming, more engaged with the issue, and more supportive of climate solutions. The three largest groups are 75% of the population. The groups most likely to be educated and motivated by us. They think that climate change should be very high or a medium priority for the President and the Congress. And the 75% includes 86% of Democrats, 69% of Independents, and 48% of Republicans. Let's talk about solutions. There's a saying, if we each do a little, we can all do a lot. If we all do a lot, we can do a lot more. According to John Kerman, which I think some of you may know, it's never too late to make things better than they otherwise will be. According to Reverend Tom R., who's the senior pastor at Village Church, we can't do it all, but let's do the good that is ours to do. Last winter, during Lent, EAC encouraged folks to make a Lenten meal pledge to eat lower on the food chain. EAC communicated the message that what people eat and what they waste makes a difference. EAC posted on its webpage the following suggestions about diet. If you aren't already a vegan or a vegetarian, in other words, an omnivore, consider one or several of the following actions. Eat one or more meatless meals, one or more days a week. Eat smaller portions of meat, 4 ounces, about the size of a deck of cards. Eat less beef and lamb. That's a really important. Eat proteins with lower carbon footprint, such as pork, poultry, fish, quinoa, and beans and rice. Reduce the amount of food waste and save and eat leftovers. Fast one meal or 1 day a week. This slide gives you depicts the comparison between 4 types of meat. If you look at beef, I think that's probably grain-fed beef, not grass-fed. But one pound of beef emits about 13 pounds of CO2. Pork, about half that much, 7 pounds of CO2. 1 pound of chicken, 2 pounds of CO2. And fish is lowest. They don't even give us a number on that because I guess it varies too much. So the moral here is eat less, eat lower. Last spring for Earth Day, EAC posted on its website a list of 12 suggested actions that individuals could take during Earth Month 2022 and beyond. They are, again, eat less meat, especially beef and lamb. Eat lower on the food chain. Eat a plant-based diet. Buy locally grown food, especially organic. Eliminate food waste. Save and eat leftovers. Compost for the greener good. Food and other organic waste. And you can do this in your backyard. You can now do it on curbside pickup or a drop-off. And these are some of the websites. I think there's a handout sheet that has the information. You can reduce, consume less, reuse and repurpose, avoid single-use items, especially plastic, recycle, sort your trash, paper, aluminum, metals, plastics, chipboard, and cardboard. Replace incandescent bulbs with CFL or LEDs, preferably the latter because they don't have any mercury. and I think they're even more efficient than CFLs. Make your next car a hybrid electric, or an all-electric. Plant a tree or two or three. Rebuild and enrich topsoil. Get political, lobby, write letters, sign petitions, vote climate for our children. And consume renewable energy. I think Evergy had a renewable subscription program. I think it's full now, but there's also an organization called Arcadia Power where you can pay your bill through them, and they take the money somehow. I don't understand the accounting of this, but somehow they use your money that you pay through them to invest in renewable energy, solar and wind, somewhere in the country. And I've been doing that for about 3 years. My nephew convinced me to do 50% with Arcadia Power. Right now I think I'm paying about $5 a month to do this, above what I would be paying Evergy. So when I say lobby, I mean lobby pastors as well as politicians. When I say vote, I mean vote climate for our children. You're welcome to take any of these signs. You can take more than one if you want to, if you can find a home for it. And they're nonpartisan, by the way. So churches cannot legally endorse candidates, but they can advocate and promote issues. By advocating issues, if they imply a candidate, so be it. But there's only so much that individuals can do. Committed individuals are crucial, but so are innovative, responsible industry leaders and government officials at all levels. Ultimately, we must change systems and infrastructures, which means changing group practices of businesses, schools, all levels of government, and even faith communities. And we must change laws, building codes, and public policies, which means getting political, taking a stand, and engaging in issue advocacy. It's not enough to change light bulbs. Our challenge is to change minds, change behavior, and change policies. Okay, now I want to talk about kiss the ground. So now we're going to have to take another right turn, or left turn, and minimize, not shut down, but minimize. Well, no, maybe I just go down here and find it.
The oral hygiene program is a stealth program.
That's Kiss the Ground.
That's Kiss the Ground.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm there. All right.
Well, go up and make it full screen.
I will when I start.
Bad news about our planet. It's so warm. Truth is, I've given up. This is the story of a simple solution. Waiting
Anybody
for
hear
our
that?
planet.
Yes.
The solution's right under our feet, and it's as old as dirt.
All of our soils that are under chemical conventional agriculture are almost completely devoid of microorganisms.
Modern agriculture was not designed for the betterment of the soil. Fossil fuels are by no means the only thing that is causing climate change. When we damage soils, carbon goes back to the atmosphere.
When we destroy soil, it releases carbon dioxide.
Biosequestration is using plants, trees, and techniques of grazing and farming to capture carbon and store it in the soil.
We can fix a lot of our climate issues to bring the CO2 down into a living plant and put it back into the soil where it belongs.
Plants working with soil microorganisms, it seems too simple.
Healthy soils lead to a healthy plant, healthy human, healthy climate.
There could be
take waste and repurpose and reuse it because it's really not waste.
The poop has to stay in the lake.
Compost is just one of a suite of soil-based carbon capture solutions.
We know how to do it. And if we continue to scale over 30 years, we can reverse global warming.
We can get the Earth back to the Garden of Eden that it once was by regeneration. To see biodiversity return to a place that was completely devastated, that gives me hope.
Our health and the health of our planet are connected.
If you look over here, my neighbor's land that has been chemical fallow, then you look over at our paddock, you have a diversity of different plant species. Which model do you want your food to be produced from? The answer is pretty simple to me.
I'll make you a deal. I won't give up, and neither should you.
So, Kiss the Ground is a movie and a movement. It's enlightening and encouraging and provides a powerful message of hope. It explains the difference between dead dirt and living soil. Kiss the Ground is a film about putting CO2 into the ground and reversing global warming. It attempts to inspire people with the possibility of using the Earth's natural processes to regenerate the soil and sequester carbon. It documents how humanity can completely and rapidly stabilize the Earth's climate, restore lost ecosystems, and create abundant nutritious food supplies. Kiss the Ground makes the case that by regenerating the Earth's soils, we can balance the climate, replenish the water supply, keep species off the extinction list, and better fuel the world. These solutions include, and I'll name some of them, he did too, regenerative agriculture, conservation agriculture, farmland restoration, silvo pasturing, intercropping, managed livestock grazing, no-till system, composting, biosequestration, biodiversity, and perennialization of annual grain crops. Most of these solutions are included in Project Drawdown's 80 solutions, which we'll discuss next. You can watch the entire movie on Netflix, or you can watch it free if you, as a school, as a student, or as a teacher, or you can host a screening for others. They'll let you see it free, according to their website. All right, we're going to talk about Project Drawdown. Now I got to go back.
Hit the bottom right, Jerry, hit the.
Bottom right? Yeah, okay. I think I'm there somewhere already. To restart it again.
It should still
There,
be.
that should be it. We're right there. Project Drawdown.
And then click on the bottom right here again.
Right there?
No, right here.
There. Okay. Okay, there is a book entitled Project Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, edited by Paul Hawken. Documented are 80 to 100 global sector-spanning solutions, including those mentioned in Kiss the Ground. Project Drawdown communicates the possibility that humanity can use natural processes and existing technology to slow, stop, and reverse global warming if scaled up. Drawdown is defined as the point in the future when levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere stop climbing and start to steadily decline, thereby stopping catastrophic climate change as quickly, safely, and equitably as possible. This book is based on a coalition of researchers from around the world who have identified and modeled the multiple solutions, the most substantive solutions to address global warming, demonstrating that we don't have to settle for simply slowing the rate of global warming, we can actually reverse it. by 2050. The solutions have been ranked according to greenhouse gas reductions calculated as CO2 equivalents in gigatons. And you can see there are the first top 10 solutions. And over there in the third from the right column is the reduced, the reduction in gigatons. I think that's worldwide. This pie chart, you might want to close that. This pie chart shows graphically the various solutions. From most, refrigeration is the most effective that can be done. And Harry Soyster is an expert over here on the refrigeration. Why don't you turn the light back on again so I can see.
KU is right now doing some
Yeah.
magnificent work on refrigeration. Really cutting edge stuff that might have different refrigerants available fairly soon that will be much, much friendlier to climate. I'm amazed at how well they're doing.
Okay. Will it have any influence on how air conditioning is
Well,
working?
what they're doing is trying to get a new class of refrigerants that dramatically reduce the amount of the potency of the refrigerant that goes into the atmosphere. And to have it something that great, that close is really significant. One thing I would say, if you're gonna get rid of a refrigerator or an air conditioner or a car refrigerant, the biggest error we make is not getting it done at the end point of the life of the mechanism. Most of the refrigeration loss comes from abandoned, poorly disposed of equipment. If you can take it to an appropriate service, the EA, the Environmental Protection Agency, did have a great program. I don't know that it's been revived, but they had a great program with each state having identified in-process places that were guaranteed to do it right.
If you trade in a car, you can't be guaranteed that that eventually down the line the dealers might do that if they decide to scrap it.
Or you
That's
put
not
a
part of the scrapping
refrigerator-
process. What?
Or you get rid of a refrigerator
Yeah.
in a way that you can't guarantee that it's not gonna be taken care of.
California has a credit program for certain types of CFCs. And so with Rotary, we actually had a collection, we're still in the beta testing. We did it around in eastern Kansas, and where we collected it, got it over to Tradewater, who was able to get destruction certificates and get credit out in California. So there's actually a market for that they're working on. And right now it was
good to hear.
Yeah, the ones that they were working with right then were some of the original Freons, really old stuff. And so there's a ton of other refrigerants out there with mostly lesser impact on the environment, but they're still out there. So yeah, there are programs out there right now, and the whole thing is being able to get them to where we all can access them.
Yeah.
I might continue now, so we can get out of here by 8:30 or 9 o'clock. This is the list of the top several, and if you look at this list, you'll see that reducing food waste was ranked third most effective, and eating a more plant-rich diet was fourth. If you combine them, they rank first. And of the 80 actions, educating girls was ranked sixth, and family planning was ranked seventh. And if you combine them, they're ranked second. And I just might mention that Chad is involved with a program called One Life, where he's involved with a school in Kenya, in Africa, where they are educating girls. Maybe you could talk to him after the program if you have any interest in contributing to something like that. The three principles of drawdown are reducing sources, supporting nature's sinks, restoring carbon, and equity and equality in global action. In addition, this is another handout sheet. That is solutions ranked by category, I guess, or by sector. In addition to natural processes and existing technologies, over time, there is the promise of innovating new technologies. These are discussed in Bill Gates' book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, the solutions we have and the breakthroughs we need. But these are years, maybe decades in the future before they can be developed and scaled up. These are some of the ones he's talking about in his book. I'll let you read those yourself. The point I guess I'm trying to make is drawdown solutions are here and now. Okay, now I'm going to talk about carbon fee and dividend. Drawdown proposes two types of solutions. Those that reduce carbon emissions going into the atmosphere and those that remove carbon emissions from the atmosphere, and it proposes 4 levels of action: individual, family, community, and policy and legislation. An example of policy and legislation is carbon fee and dividend. Carbon fees are collected for the cost of burning fossil fuels. Dividends are fees collected minus administrative costs and returned to Americans to spend as they see fit. Carbon pricing harnesses the power of the free market by making the green choices also the least costly ones. It will motivate everyone, corporations as well as individuals, to make green choices. Carbon pricing will finally financially influence other countries to adopt their own carbon pricing via trade levies, which are already happening in the EU and soon in Canada. The author of the Drawdown book acknowledges that carbon pricing will effectively accelerate nearly all of Drawdown's proposed strategies. Accounting for the true cost of fossil fuel emissions not only creates a level playing field for all sources of energy, it also informs consumers of the true cost comparison of various fuels when making purchasing decisions. So this is how carbon fee and dividend works. You charge a fee, fee would start at $15 a ton of CO2 and it would rise annually to $10 or $15. Imports would also pay the fee, shielding the U.S. industry. Farm fuel and military fuel would be excluded from the fee. Firms would be rebated the fee for permanent CO2 capture and sequestration. And doing it this way, using market forces, eliminates regulation that a lot of people dislike. About 2/3 of Americans should receive more in dividends than they pay in higher prices. That's the whole idea. This feature will inject billions into the economy, protect family budgets, free households to make independent choices about their energy usage, spur innovation, and build aggregate demand for low carbon products at the consumer level. Carbon fee and dividend is good for the economy, good for people, good for the environment, and it is revenue neutral. It is projected to prevent over 2,000 premature deaths over 20 years from improved air quality. I'd like to mention next and finally something called Climate Solutions 101. which is sponsored from Drawdown. I might mention regarding climate fee and dividend, all past Federal Reserve chiefs support it. And this is a list of countries that have set a net zero target. Over 370 global companies have made a commitment to go 100% renewable. That's their list. And now Drawdown 101. It's an educational series of 6 climate lessons focusing on solutions. Instead of rehashing well-known climate challenges, Climate Solutions 101 proposes game-changing climate action based on its own rigorous scientific research and analysis. The lessons consist of 6 videos totaling 90 minutes, and they're free watching them online. And here are the 6 titles and their length. So filled with the latest need-to-know science and fascinating insights from global leaders in climate policy, research, investment, and beyond, this video series has been described as a brain shift toward a brighter climate reality. We must harvest the passion of youth. You recognize the young lady in the red on the left? That is Greta Thunberg. And you may not recognize who she's standing next to on the right. That is a woman named Severin Suzuki, who as a 12-year-old girl from Canada spoke to the UN summit in Rio in 1992. She became known as the girl who silenced the world for 6 minutes. So when Greta was here a couple years ago, I guess, they connected up in Vancouver and marched together. So the young people are marching, speaking, and yelling across the world, worldwide. This is in Nashville, Nairobi, New Delhi. Support, join those who are using their voices, votes, their choices to fight for their future, their community, and their world. Use your voice, your vote, your choices. Speak truth to power, like your world depends on it. My final video will be Dr. Catherine Hayhoe. She's the endowed professor and director of the Climate Science Center at Texas Tech University. She has led climate impact assessments for many cities and regions. She is a mother and wife of Reverend Andrew Farley, an evangelical pastor. They co-wrote a book entitled A Climate Change, Global Warming Fact for Faith-Based Decisions. Now I'm going to try to find that. That's it. I'm getting better at this.
To climate change, the cake is baked. It is.
I think they've left.
At this point, all we can do is sit back and get ready for a truly wild ride, right? The idea that it's all over, and we're all going to hell in a handbasket anyway, so the best thing we can do is sharpen up our prepper skills. Build a place off the grid to live out our days in a real-life version of some apocalyptic novel. That's not just a myth. It is a dangerous one. Yes, it is true that since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, we have increased the amount of carbon in the atmosphere by almost 50%. And yes, it is true that the average temperature of the Earth has already warmed by 1 degree Celsius or 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And yes, it's also true that even if there were a magic switch we could somehow flip today to turn off all of our coal and oil and gas immediately, we'd still see some warming from what we've already put up in the atmosphere. Just as if your doctor told you that you had some seriously blocked arteries and had to make some lifestyle changes right away. It's never too late to change, and we all know that doing so could avoid some serious and even potentially life-threatening consequences. But at the same time, a lifetime of poor diet and little exercise will take some time to deal with. And it is true, there are some, like the tribes in Louisiana who are becoming climate refugees after persistent flooding is forcing them to relocate, or the people of Kivalina in Alaska who are seeing the permafrost their homes are built on thaw and crumble out from under them. They are already experiencing dangerous impacts. But the quicker we wean ourselves off of our dirty old ways of getting energy, the less temperature change we'll see and the lower the risk of serious and even very dangerous impacts will be for all of us. Our choices today will make a big difference to our future. That's why I decided to go to the climate talks in Paris in December of 2015. I went to France not just as a scientist. I went as a human, as a mother, and as a person who believes that we have to act. I went with colleagues who are medical doctors, faith leaders, city mayors, politicians, musicians, lawyers, policy experts, and just plain human beings. We all went to Paris together to support the leaders of 195 nations who have formally adopted an agreement to limit the rise in global temperatures to below 2 degrees Celsius, and possibly below 1.5 degrees if we can, because the lower we go, the safer we'll be. There isn't just one magic number here. Doing nothing about climate change will be far more expensive, both in dollars and in human lives, than acting now. Our choices make a difference, and that is why honoring the commitments that the world collectively made in Paris is so important. Cities are on board, churches are on board, companies are on board. We need the fossil fuel industry on board too. After all, they're the ones involved in extracting and producing the fossil fuels that are the main reason we're in this situation to begin with. First of all, we have to cut our carbon emissions and the emissions of all the other heat-trapping gases, like methane from cow farts and nitrous oxide from fertilizers. And second, we have to help poor countries, many of whom are already suffering the impacts of climate change today, to prepare and adapt to a warmer world. So how do we cut our carbon emissions? A big piece of the pie comes from being a lot more efficient in the way we use our energy. Us North Americans, we're some of the most wasteful people in the world when it comes to energy, and food and garbage and pretty much everything. The good news is that when we save energy, we save money. So efficiency, though, all by itself isn't enough. We also have to wean ourselves off carbon. And we are already a good ways down that path today. Wind and solar energy is booming, not just here in North America, but even on the other side of the world, where China is the world leader in producing energy from both wind and sun. But the reality is, it's hard to do in time when the true cost of the carbon we burn is not being reflected in the price we pay at the pump or in our electricity bill. We need to get rid of our old, dirty energy, like coal-fired power plants, even faster than we already are. We need new technology to be developed and implemented, from solar shingles to giant wind turbines in the air or under the water, faster than it is today. And we need a price on carbon that lets the market pick the winners and the losers. Would a price on carbon really work? You can ask the province of British Columbia. They've been doing it for almost a decade now. In 2008, they implemented what they call a revenue-neutral carbon tax. In other words, it returns now about $1 billion a year to taxpayers. British Columbia now has the lowest personal income tax rate in Canada and one of the lowest corporate tax rates in all of North America. All this is fine and good, but how can we help poor people in Africa, Southeast Asia, and even Latin America at the same time? Developed countries have produced the majority of carbon emissions, Yet developing nations bear the brunt of its impacts because they are the most vulnerable. And they're the least responsible for this problem. According to Oxfam, the poorest half of the world has only produced 10% of global emissions. That's why in Paris, the have nations pledged to financially support the have not nations through a green climate fund that's meant to help support both climate mitigation and adaptation efforts. Mitigation because energy poverty is real. There's over 1 billion people around the world who don't have access to electricity. And the answer to climate change isn't to freeze them in their tracks and return us all to the Stone Age. Nor is it, as some have argued, that poor nations need more fossil fuels, and that greater tragedies can be avoided by simply using them than by not. There's a giant hole in that argument. Do poor nations have big reserves of fossil fuels? With a few exceptions, no, they don't. Of the world's remaining coal and oil and gas reserves, just 6% lie in all of Africa and 3% in Southeast Asia. We all do need energy to rise out of poverty and to build resilience to a changing climate. And that is why the Green Climate Fund focuses on both adaptation and mitigation to help the poor prepare for the impacts of climate change, while at the same time accelerating their development and their ability to produce clean energy. When it comes to climate change, it's not too late to act yet, but the window of opportunity is closing fast. That's why it's so important to tell our leaders we support the Paris Agreement, and why it's so important for each of us to do our part now, before it really is too late. Thank you for watching Global Weirding. Be sure to go to globalweirdingseries.com every other Wednesday so you don't miss the new episode. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, and check out our Facebook Live discussion every other Thursday.
Okay, trying to find it again. So it's right here. What do I touch down here, Chad?
Go left. Up. Right.
It looks like a movie screen.
I can't see from here. What?
Right. The first one to the left was supposed to be
I had cataract surgery and I'm seeing too well. Plus, I think this is a little bit out of focus anyway.
It makes you think. It's not your VO. It's that they die. Because they don't. The human is so much different.
Yes, okay. So these lessons are about solutions and hope. They communicate the message the future is ours to choose. They talk about building a better future by design instead of by default. According to the Oak Grove Presbyterian Church Green Team, it is not hopeless and we're not helpless. According to Robert Anton Wilson, the future is up for grabs. It belongs to any and all who will take the risk and accept the responsibility of consciously creating the future they want. But it's not all about us. Quoting from the great law of the Iroquois Confederacy, in our every deliberation we must consider the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations, our children and grandchildren and their grandchildren. When we think of loving our neighbors and practicing the golden rule, let us act, realize we all live upwind and upstream from someone else, both in time and place. In the words of Dr. Ruth Roselle, sitting right there, use your voice and use your vote, use the choices in life and use your leadership. Speak truth to power like your world depends upon it. Does it?
Yeah.
So my benediction, Well, before closing, I encourage you to vote. Vote climate for our children. Vote climate for the next 7 generations. Vote climate for future generations of all God's creatures. That's why I put that guy there. Okay. So finally, my benediction is the 10 R's. Resist, refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle, renew, restore, rethink, and rejoice. Rejoice in the earth and the fullness thereof. Amen.